Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Be Clay. Thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate you and I appreciate it. As you know, I say that you can listen to anyone else, but you are here listening to me today, and I greatly appreciate it. So, I am excited, you guys. So I so first of all, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me start over because for those who are new, who have never been here before, if this is your first time here, welcome. Okay. Hi, how are you? My name is Elisa, and here on the Be Clay podcast, you are on a journey with me as we are learning how to just what? Be clay. And with Be Clay, we are not to tell the potter what we should be and how we should be, right? And what is our purpose? We are allowing ourselves to be molded and for the potter to do what wants to do. Okay. Now let's go back. First of all, I'm so excited. So usually, right, I record on Sunday, and I, try to have these things uploaded by Wednesday. The Wednesday is the date to upload it. But I have been really trying to change it because recently, or lately, should I say, doing it on Sundays, even if I do it, I've been changing my times when I'm actually recording. However, I feel like picking the wrong times because people be up into morning outside, and I always be trying to figure out, oh my God, can they hear everybody outside and different things? And it's been very hard, even with the editing of things like that. So I have changed it this week, decided not to not to record on this Sunday because of, yeah, we don't pick the right times to do so. So today is actually Wednesday early in the morning, but I want to just say we're excited because guess what, you guys? Like, I finally finished a whole semester at WGU. Okay, yay! You know, applause. Okay, so I told you guys that I am, I am on this crazy whatever you want to call it, but it's crazy because I'm really trying to finish this by August 31st. I am way behind. I did have a whole, mapped out plan that it wasn't going to, as crazy as it actually was doable. But I'm behind, you guys. I am behind, but I know that I got to do this for myself. I do. I really do. I have to do this. So for everyone who is, like, keeping me accountable and encouraging me and pushing me, like, Lisa, you got this. I appreciate it because I definitely need it. Okay. But I finally finished, and I'm so excited about this because of the fact that it really taught me just, I don't know, like, I'm really going to get into it when I get to 2026, but it's really been teaching me, like, how much God really, like, don't play about me and how much he really loves me. And because I was just sitting here like, God, I don't know, like, I've been back and forth because I'm behind. You have a plan, and we sat down, me and God, let's go, and I haven't been following the way, and I'm like, well, it's too late. And but he just had to keep telling me, like, Lisa, you could do all things through me. What are we doing here? And I'm just, and all these little, I'm not gonna say anxieties, but these little things that has made me nervous for so many different reasons, of me really finishing. Like, I have got discovered so fast, like, I almost quit. Like, oh my God. Like, at least this stuff. Like, I understand it. And, we can really talk ourselves out of some things, and we can really, overthink some things. There's just a lot of things we can do. And I'm not gonna say anxieties, but when it comes to test taking and stuff like that, we have these all these. First of all, I don't like proctor tests. Let's just start right there. I do not like. First of all, not just proctor tests. I don't even like time tests. Like, it's something about time tests when you be sitting the clock. Oh my god, right? But not to be timed and is proctored. Like, oh my god, it just sends me to a whole different thing. Um, I would love to have that job though, like by all means, but to be the one that sit there, it's just like, oh my god. But they're doing it differently, so it's not as taxing. Knowing somebody sitting there watching every little thing you do. But with all that being said, yes, I did it, you guys. Okay, so but I did know that once I once I finally, you know, sorry, you guys. I did know that once I finally take this, like get this together, that it will basically set the trajectory for the rest of the courses. I just had to get past this first hump, and I did it. I did it, yo, guys. I did it. So I'm excited because I did it. Like, I literally was crying. Like, I literally had tears. Like, oh my god, when I saw the pass, because you get, as soon as you finish this, it's right there, and I literally cried. Like, I can't believe this thing. This is crazy. So, but here we are. So, enough of the announcements. Enough of the morning announcements. So here we are. So with that being said, hi you guys. We are in 2025. Okay, we're starting off with 2025. We made it to 2025. We are almost at 2026. I think we'll be in just like this July 22nd. So I think I'm not even going to try. Let's not, because I told you guys in the last episode that unlike the other episodes of the years, I was able to do 2025 as a month by month. This year, that is not happening. I can't. It's just too massive for me to really take into, it's too massive for me to just do this in month by month. It's just too much. Okay. Because so much have happened, which in each month, in 2025, that it literally is just too much for me to go like January, February, March, April. Like, no. I will be bringing into what happens in certain months and different things, but so much has happened. So let's begin. So, whew. 2025, I'm trying to tell you, like 2025 was a lot, you guys. It was a lot. So in 2024, right? In 2024, I basically, okay, so in 2024, at the end of 2024, I told you, remember I said that, God was telling me basically, like, whenever you go through this year, you're going to fail, right? And so the end of 2024, he basically, was began to, like, reviewing the tests that I have went throughout the year and explaining to me why I failed and how to pass it. Basically, how if you fail a test and the teacher is allowing you to take it over again, but they give you that study guide. That study guide is a breakdown of each question of what's the correct answer and how to obtain the correct answer. And basically the end of 2024 was that. And I came to the conclusion at that time of how much God actually honored our relationship from me as a little girl. That little girl that loved him so much, that desired, not just desired, but like yearn to be in his presence, love to be in his presence, and understand that to be in his presence that, the Bible says no flesh can glory in his presence. And I understood that even as a young girl. And so, and he honored that. He honored that. And so, with him honoring that, which is one of the main reasons why he allowed me to go through the things that I went through and actually fail, not as a punishment, but for me to learn and understand so that I can get to the place where I can get to be able to get back to the holies of holies, into his presence, right? Because right now I can't get in with everything that I will be carrying into his presence like that. Right. And so he is, being such a great and awesome God as he is, and allowing me to clean me up and to heal and set free. And so that I can really just, because his presence is awesome, you guys. I'm trying to tell you. So that's where he was. And part of that, like I said, I began to not just, as I'm understand that first of all, everyone cannot go with you. Everyone can't go with you. Sorry, guys. Everyone can't go with you. And so I had to begin to start, weaning off people that can't go with me. It's, simple as that. So now here we are in 2025. Now, though we just went through this test and review, and I realized, I'm telling you, the watch night, it was like, yes, God, I realized how much you honor our relationship, is what I said. And I'm just so in all of that. Yes, God. And I tell you guys, I told you, everything starts January 1st. It does not give me any time to even I don't breathe. I don't, basically it's just like straight, right? Do not pass go, do not pass $20, do not collect $200. We just go right into it right away. And so January 1st is here, and it just seemed like I was just flooded with everything. A lot of that inner, I've been dealing with a lot of things, getting to the root of where get into the root of a lot of things. And throughout these last couple of years, we've been talking about that. So 2025, remember I told you there are layers to these things. There are levels to these things, to this stuff of healing. And there was one part that I did not touch, or I did not, I guess I say, like, I knew was there, but I didn't understand to the extent of what it was, and it's how much I felt unworthy. I began to talk about that at the intro of 2025, but I didn't understand how much I felt like I was just like nothing. And so like I like I said, I love God's presence. I do not function. We do not function in the outer courts. I know some people just love it to be in it. Not me. We do not function. And I'm saying it like that on purpose, because we do not function. We just can't. The outer courts, we just can't. And I just can't do it, right? And then the inner courts, yeah, we're here, but it's the holies of holies is where I belong, right? And so, and everyone can't get there, and I get that. So I'm not even trying to let everybody, because it's a cost to get there. It's a cost to be there. And everybody's not willing to, even for those that are able to get there, that God will allow you to be there. People are not even willing to pay the cost to be there. By all means, do not, if you cannot. That's okay. But Elisa will pay the cost, because I love it there. It's amazing. And, the inner courts is great. It's better than the outer courts. But, Jesus, that holies of holies is where the place to be. And so with that being said, understanding the cost, like we growing up, as right now, we're growing up in church. We talk about the holies of holies, but not really. A lot of us, or a lot of people, did not really understand and know that there's a cost to get there, and understanding what the cost is. And I understood the cost, and I was willing to pay the cost. And with that means there were there was a standard that there's a standards like there was a standard to get there, right? And so I started to feel, because I knew the standards, I was upholding the standards to get to that holiest of holies. With this being said, um, I gravitated, because I have these standards, this mindset. It's not like everybody's mindset and everybody's standards, right? Because some people don't mind just staying in the outer courts or staying in the inner courts. And, you know, at least that's not for me, right? And it's nothing, and I'm not gonna say there's nothing wrong with it. What I'm saying is, okay, so I did. Let me backtrack. Let me backtrack because so um there's a reason why that there's different grade of gas, right? And with each grade there is a cost. The cheapest, as we know, is regular. Okay. And majority of everybody that drives and the majority of vehicles that we is utilized on these streets are utilizing the are able to, fill up on regular. Okay. But depending on the car that you have, then, there'll be some cars that require you to put in the higher grade of gas, which means that it's going to be a higher cost coming out your pockets, that you have to pay in order for your vehicle to function properly. So, with that being said, in order for this vehicle, me, to function properly, I cannot take regular. I cannot take the mid. I can't even take premium. I basically take diesel. Okay. And so, with that being said, and I understand the cost. Now, there's some people who, car can take, it just works just fine with the regular, but they choose to take, to do premium or 89 or whatever case may be, for their car, for their preferences, whatever. Some people believe it's going their car work better, and to each his own, right? It doesn't. But I wouldn't tell you to take diesel if you don't have the capacity to withhold and withstand diesel. And the only way for you to understand what type of gas or grade of gas or things for your vehicle to function, you would actually have to get the instructions from the manufacturer. So you knew that your car takes premium because hello, the manufacturer makes sure that you understood and know that hey, you just can't put anything in here, right? It's on the gas cap. It's different areas in the car. On the car, it shows and tells you what type of gas. And there's something in that glove department. It's called a book and a manual if you read it, right? Which I don't know how many people actually read it, but it actually tells you. And from the manufacturer basically shows you and tell you. And you can always go to your manufacturer websites and different things like that to actually make sure that you're doing. And I'm sorry again, you guys. Yes. So going to the manufacturer, seeking out the manufacturer to know and understand exactly what you need to be able to function. That is the main thing. And you can't look and go and compare yourself to what other people need because that's not what you need, right? Because you can really mess up your you can be really messed up basically utilizing or refueling yourself or taking the same dosage, even everything that other people are using, not understanding that we all made up of different components, right? Uh, I always, when I learned this analogy, as far as I take diesel, um, and understanding. I actually had a shirt called "It's Okay That I Know That I'm Rare," because I understood that I was rare. Like not everybody, can take, and that's fine because there's a lot of people that I know people that what they take or what they can utilize, I can't do it. I don't have the capacity to do so. We have to learn to love, love where we are and who we are, and not just not don't look at like don't look at everybody else. Like I'm saying, like I'm here telling you how I heal. This is how I heal. I had to begin to learn. 2025 was really a was me. I have did extensive work throughout the rest of these years past prior, right? From once I learned about my, the attachment theories, like that right there, I told you guys, like I was literally on his face every single day, let's go. And but now in 2025, it was really time for me to walk in it. And this is why the beginning of the year was such a struggle, because I literally have to like walk in it. Like I'm understanding and beginning to identify my triggers, and I begin to identify what it is. But now we need to walk in it. So now we need to turn these lies that I have been believing all my life, and let's figure out the truth and walk in that instead. And so I told you guys there's layers to these things, there's levels to this stuff. And so to now walk in the truth is a lot, right? But it needed to be done. So back to the 20, the analogy of gas. And I'm just saying this because I don't know who, all those who may be watching Amazing Race, because I love Amazing Race and I watched it. I always think about, there was an episode where there were the teams on this league, they had these cars, right, to get to their, all those destinations to, for during the race. And these cars took diesel fuel. Now, mind you, the distances that the teams had to go, eventually they had to fill up in gas, right? So you see every team on this, every team, I think it was about at least spot. It was a good number, right? It was a good number. It wasn't down to like 3, 4. It was a real good number, like maybe about 6 or 7. And you seen everybody who went. Now there were teams where a couple of people in the teams where they realized, oh yeah, this take diesel. There was, there's a couple in 1 or 2 teams where, like one team, they was about to put regular because they didn't, and then they realized, oh snap, it takes diesel, right? No, not everybody. To be honest, no one really like before, because we do this though, right? No one really, not one team, at least don't remember, actually check the car and check to see to make sure, does this car take regular before it put it in there? They were just about to put it in there. Automatically assume that it take regular. And it wasn't until something happened or whatever case and be, like one was just like, he was about to, he got distracted, and then all of a sudden looked like, oh snap, it takes diesel, like that. But they didn't check before they actually begin to push they didn't check first before they start the process of filling up the car. And so there were only two teams that actually did fill the car up with the diesel. But one team was able to, like, oh snap, the car started acting up, and he realized, like, oh, this is diesel, and he knew what to do. One team, he knew how to drain it out and then like go back and put gas, regular gas in, or whatever case it be. So another team that they did not have that, have that knowledge of what to do. So they actually broke down on the side of the road and they had to call for another car. And I'm saying that all to say that is that you got to be careful and check with yourself. And there's going to be a part of the process in your healing journey where you begin to really learn what is it that I need to be able to function properly. You no longer are going to utilize what you thought that you need based off other people, based off what someone told you, because that's not working, obviously, because this is where we are. You have to actually go to the manufacturer. That's the best way to do it, right? To go, if you have a Hyundai, to go to, Volkswagen and be like, hey, what do I need? They be like, look at you like you're crazy, right? The best thing to do is to go to the manufacturer and to figure this out. And so here in 2025, it was a struggle. It was definitely a struggle because of the fact that this was the year when I had to really learn how to walk in the truth. I did all this massive, extensive healing and allowing God to, allowing Him to have surgery. And I stayed there, and I talked about how, that I wasn't rushing the process and everything else. And what it did was it brung to the surface. Now, a couple of things was happening. That one, and I explained this in the intro. On one side, and it was multiple sides, right? So on one side, as I am learning how to walk in these truths, as God is really allowing what I learned later on in 2025, these core wounds to come to the surface so that we can deal with it, so that I can really walk into its truth. As I'm walking, or as these core wounds is coming to the surface, baby, it's a struggle, because it's like, oh my goodness, right? Because I had to deal with the major core wound, which I'm really going to get into in the next episode, of me feeling unworthy and why I feel unworthy. And so, however, there was a trigger, right? The trigger was, here I am walking around feeling unworthy, feeling like, because with coming to the understanding that in order for me to function, that I take diesel, correct? And so therefore, if someone's going to pour into me, that means they will have to have the fuel, the correct fuel to pour into me, right? And that's also, it costs me to fill up with diesel, right? But it also will cost other people, because like we go to the gas station, right? And there are some gas stations that I believe they don't actually have diesel fuel. And so they just can't go to any other gas station. And so with that being said, there are some people who doesn't have that grade of fuel to refuel me or to pour into me. So this is where I started saying I cost too much, right? Instead of just saying that, I just accepted that I take diesel, I started saying, well, this makes sense. This is why people, weren't there in the way that I needed them to be, because they didn't have the capacity. But then there were some where I felt like this is why, like, I understood, like I had said, oh, you didn't have the capacity. Then there was some that as far as I was concerned, like you chose to be in my life and you chose to be in this position in my life. Why didn't you get to the place that I need you to be to pour into me with what I needed, right? And I said, well, because Elisa, you cost too much, and that was the unworthiness, but we had to deal with that. And so I struggled, like, Elisa, you do cost too much. And I kept saying that over and over again, Elisa, you cost too much, you cost too much. And, you know, and eventually I expected everyone to leave me because, Elisa, you cost too much. And I was really, although I was learning to walk, and, you know, trying to learn how to walk in the new truths, I expected to walk alone. I was preparing myself to walk alone because, Elisa, you cost too much. And I'm talking about in every area. We're talking about in church. We're talking about family. We're talking about friends. We're talking about basically every area because you cost too much. That's what I was saying. You cost too much, Lisa. You cost too much. And if you know, on one hand, I'm like, I wasn't upset to some degree about it because it makes sense of all the things I went through up until now. But what made it harder, or what made a challenge, was understanding that I cost too much. People was treating me like, I don't know, maybe I intimidate them. I don't understand what was. I can't really pinpoint exactly what, but they were treating me as, and I just couldn't understand what it was. Then I had to start thinking, like, what do people see then, right? Versus what I see, because people see something that I don't see. Because why are you treating me as if I'm out here, you know, this person, like this big old massive, like, I don't know. It's just, because because I cost too much, I felt as though I looked at myself as really still being very, very, very small. And so I still looked at myself as small, but people was treating me as if like I'm out here this big old gigantic, I'm gonna say this person, but I don't know. I guess in my, I guess they treated me as if I was this person, and they were intimidated by who I am, and I couldn't understand how you're intimidated by who I am, and then I was like, and let's start over. So it was me feeling mediocre, right? And yet the reactions that I would receive to people was like I'm trying to be better than them or something like that. And I really wasn't. And they were acting as if like I'm intimidating them, which I couldn't understand how I intimidate you. Like if I felt like if all you had to do was just ask me, and I explained that to the other one, that, and I would have told you, if you would have had a conversation with me, you would understand that like what you see is not how I think at all about myself whatsoever. And so I had this question that proposed, like, what is it that people see about me? And it was a question that that needed to be answered. That question wasn't answered until months later. However, these first few months of the year, that question really, it just, every day I woke up just struggling. I cried because I just couldn't understand why I was being mocked the way I was being mocked. I was being ridiculed, and like it wasn't just people's voices. I mean, like people said out of their mouths, but it was just things that people, the way they looked at me, the way they treated the cutting the eyes and different things. Like, oh my God! And I'm just like, but I didn't even say anything. I didn't even do anything for the most part. Yeah, I was, trying to stay at God's feet even the more so because I was hurting. I was in pain. I was suffering, and He is the only constant that I know. And so I just needed Him even the more as I'm, because again, like I'm talking about every fear and again these core wounds was coming to the surface and it was here. And as much as I used to, push that down to the side because I've been doing that for some years, this year we couldn't. But it was a heavy burden to bear. It was to carry. Like every inner conversation, everything that I thought about myself came from all these people that picked me up and dropped me, and I just kept saying, but I'm not worthy. Like, why I'm not worthy? And at the same time, I know that I shouldn't feel this way because of Christ Himself. Of course, I'm worthy because He made me worthy. And I know that the reason why I had to really deal with this is because He wanted me to know, not just really know, but know that I know that I know that I know and understand that I am worthy because He makes me worthy. And I could not receive it. And I remember because at one time I was in church and I was just literally like crying, but silently crying. And I was hearing the Lord like, I just wanted to be chosen. I just wanted to be like loved. And I just wanted people to just, I just wanted to be poor. And I just wanted all these things. And I know that that's all who He is. And I remember crying. He's like, Lisa, I chose you. And I heard Him loud as day, but I could not receive it because of all those that supposedly chose to be in my life. And we, like my dad and the father figures, they did not, they left. They left me. They abandoned me. They, I cost too much. I costed too much. It would be too much of them to be able to be what they needed to be for me. And so I look at God the same way. But there's nothing that He did. We've been through so much already for me to know for real, that He's not going to drop me. He's not going to abandon me. But yet I could not hold fast in that enough to walk in that. And with that being said, like it was painful and I was struggling and it was a lot, and I so badly wanted to just receive it, to just grab hold of it, to walk in it, to live in it, I wanted it so bad. I wanted to trust Him. I wanted to trust that and know that because He's not a man that He can lie. But everything was so loud. All this was so loud. And I just knew that He had to allow me to go through all of that in order for me to get to where I am today. Thank you, Lord. And I could understand. I can't even understand and fathom the pain that He had to endure to watch His child hurt in that. Because even while He was crying, He said, I love you. and I did choose you. And he was just telling me all these things, and I was just like, I know, but I kept saying to him, I know, but, and I hear you, but, you know, and so I leave this with you to sit down with yourself, because a lot of times we, again, like I said, we want to heal. You're going to have to go through those things, them hard questions that you are really not trying to ask yourself, because you don't want to go through the process of getting the answer. And you may feel like me, where you really have to sit in that moment that you felt unworthy too, and why you felt unworthy. Why do you don't trust people? Why you walk around talking about something? Oh, I hate people. Or I don't like people. Why? Get to those core wounds and figure out why. Go to whoever you need to help you in this place. Now, I have God, and I'm not saying it was just God. Again, I told you I had someone that, as we go therapy and things like that, I had multiple resources that I did talk to, because you can't do this by yourself. And you're going to have to really dig deep. And depending how old you are, mind you, at this time I'm 38. I will be turned 39 that year. So I had 38 years worth of stuff. And depending on how old you are, to whoever listening to me, if you're older than me, then you have way more years to figure that out, of what you have to figure out. But at the end, and it's going to hurt, and you're going to want to turn back. But keep pressing, because I did. But keep pressing, because the cost of me not pressing will cost more than to me to press. Right? And so I implore you to, one, begin to learn what is it that really makes me be able to function. I would say go to the manufacturer, because we can tell ourselves anything. Like I said, there's people who really is okay with regular gas, but still, because they whatever to choose, and they tell themselves or whatever, their premium works better. I'm not going to sit here and argue with that. My thing is, we can tell ourselves anything. So it's best to go, get someone who's going to really tell us the absolute truth, of what we really need, and not necessarily ourselves. Don't really try to trust yourself. So with that being said, stay tuned. Stay tuned for the next episode, when we really dig deep into the lessons that I have learned within this struggle. Like, I had to be careful. Okay, you have to be careful, because the enemy is out there still, and he's not taking a break just because you out here trying to heal. Because in reality, he doesn't want you to heal for real, because if you heal, and once you heal and really know who you are, you are basically a threat to his kingdom. So of course he's going to throw some things. He's going to use people in the midst of it, and which is why I said, please do not do this by yourself. Try to find someone. If you need help to find someone, let me know, because of the fact that you're going to need someone to cover you while you're in here. You know how, like I said before, like when you are, I'm not saying that people can do it. I'm not saying they can't do it. It's just harder. Um, it's just harder. Because I'm not sure. I can't talk about anybody who has been addicted to anything and had to go through, getting clean by themselves. But when you have someone right there to wipe the sweat, to cover you, to pray over you, in this place, it just makes it easier, because the enemy is still right there. And matter of fact, I feel like he's even there, even though more, because he's going to throw things there even the more. Just one, because he doesn't want you to get free. and he wants you to stay, like he wants you to walk around telling him, I hate people. Of course he wants that, right? Because then he doesn't have to do anything because you do everything for him because you hate people. So you're going to treat people nasty all the time. He ain't got to do nothing. You doing it for him. And so once you begin to love people, so because love is a weapon, right? And so he doesn't want that. With so um, stay tuned, okay? Stay tuned. We'll get into all of that even the more, and why I say get someone to cover you because the enemy is right there. So, with all that being said, again, until next time, know that you are loved, not just by little, but greatly. Not just by some, but by the one who created you in his love. And he is not the only one. We love you unconditionally. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing that you can do to change that.
You are the potter, so I will be clay. Be